The following is a paid presentation by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys, paid for by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys. The Siniard Law Show, answering your legal questions, featuring attorneys Tommy Siniard, Bart Siniard, and your host, Aaron Dacey. This is the Siniard Law Show.
Hello and welcome to the Siniard Law Show, where we invite your legal questions and educate you on various areas of the law. Siniard Law is a father-son personal injury firm right here in the Tennessee Valley, focused on giving back to the community through legal education. Siniard Law has again received recognition as a Tier 1 personal injury litigation firm by Best Lawyers in America. Bart Siniard is on the list of Best Lawyers in America 3 years running. And Tommy Siniard, his father, has more than 3 decades of recognition by Best Lawyers in America. Tonight, we're discussing wills and trusts. Bart Siniard and guest attorney Will Pylant will take us through the ins and outs. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, this is stuff that people need to know, and most people don't. I'm really glad to have Will Pylant here on the show tonight, who's an expert in this area. Everybody needs to know a little bit about it. And, one of the things Will has said to me that, drives home the importance of it is nobody wants to think about passing away and what happens after that. But if you don't, the state of Alabama or the state of Tennessee, wherever you live, they have set up a system for you where your heirs get your property or your money if you don't decide yourself. And a lot of people have these unique family situations where, they may have one child that hadn't seen them in decades, or, they have a cousin who they don't want being able to touch a piece of land. And that's why this stuff is important, even though it's maybe not something you want to think about. It is important because sometimes one of the best gifts you can give your family is them having that peace of mind. So Will, I appreciate you being on here and looking forward to discuss this.
Yeah, I'm very curious to hear what the difference is between a will and a trust.
Yeah, we'll get there. And, one of the things I asked Will to talk about, kind of a legal tip of the week is, why is estate planning important?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
And Bart, thanks for having me. I'm good to be here with you. I think it was maybe Ben Franklin that said, death and taxes, we're all going to go through it. And so it's a great opportunity to share some of these tips that we normally discuss in our practices with your viewing audience.
Yeah.
And so, on the importance of estate planning, Bart, there's 4 kind of main documents that we look for. The first would be a last will and testament, where you name an executor and decide how you want to leave your property or your estate. Mm-hmm. Power of attorney. So someone else can write checks in your account, sort of pay the bills and keep the train on the tracks if you're unable to do so. The third would be a healthcare power of attorney. And so that's someone that can help make medical decisions for you if you cannot. Then the last would be an advance directive for healthcare, which a lot of people call a living will, primarily for end of life decisions.
Yeah. So there's really those 4 tools in the toolbox, I guess, that really most everybody needs to think about having, right?
That's right. Yeah, so pretty much everyone should have those 4. There's some other documents as well. Aaron, you mentioned a trust. That's something that that you may hear a lot about. There's some useful ones and some that's probably not so useful. But a revocable living trust allows you to help your estate avoid probate. And so there's some benefits of looking at the revocable living trust as well.
Good. Well, we'll get into this. If you have any questions on this topic or any other legal topic, just email us at questions@siniardlaw.com or call us at 844-7000-LAW, and your question may be featured. Now, to our legal tip of the week, why is estate planning important? So you guys have kind of touched on that a little bit. When I hear the word trust, like everybody has a will, right? Or should.
Or should. Yeah, most people don't.
You hear the word trust, that sounds like must be for people who have a lot of money.
Yeah. Now,
right?
I mean, you do hear the trust fund babies.
Yeah.
But there's actually some type of trust where, you don't need to be a multimillionaire for it to make sense. Tell us about some of those in the estate
Sure.
planning process.
Sure. Yeah. So Bart, I'd say a revocable living trust allows your estate to avoid probate, and you do that by transferring assets out of your individual name and into the name of the trust during your lifetime.
Okay.
And in doing that, upon your passing, there's no probate assets, and so there's no probate required. So Bart, you had mentioned, what happens if you don't have a will, if you haven't done this planning, if you haven't done any planning, then your estate would pass to your heirs at law, which the state of Alabama has established through the statute of intestacy. Generally, that's your spouse is included as an heir, as well as your children. And sometimes folks in our line of work may have a different design about how their estate should pass that differs from that. Bart, occasionally also we'll make calls where people have got, say, predeceased children or they don't have children. And so we're calling, when we're probating estates, we'll call an heir, in Texas and say, don't hang up, I'm not selling anything, but your great aunt, Sally, you're going to have an inheritance from that. So it's great to, a will or a trust, either way, gives you a chance to say what should happen to your estate when you pass away.
Yeah, like, I have a wrongful death case right now where one of the children who nobody in the family has seen for like 20 years, moved overseas and has nothing to do with his family, he's going to get a portion of the settlement. It's kind of unique to Alabama wrongful death law. But if you have any family dynamic like that, see an attorney like Will, so that if things go south for you medically, everything transitions as you would want it to.
I think you guys are right on the money when you talk about how people don't want to talk about this. It's depressing.
Yeah.
Or you have to have hard conversation. So that
Yeah.
it's really important. And I want to hear more too about probate. But let's get to our viewer questions. This first question tonight is a voicemail from Jesse.
Yes, my name's Jay, and I'm currently dealing with several people trying to steal my inheritance. It's about $500,000 worth of inheritance, and they are saying because I didn't, whatever the word is for denying a trust within 2 years, that I am going to lose all of my inheritance, even though the will clearly revokes the trust because the trust was a revocable trust.
Yeah, Bart, so a lot to unpack with that viewer question. Certainly appreciate the question. In our world, there's a few important statutes of limitation. I know y'all deal with those too. I believe what the viewer is discussing is under Alabama law, you get 2 years to contest the validity of a trust. Yeah. That can be shortened to 6 months if the trustee sends you a letter and puts you on notice and lets you know of the fact that there is a trust. Say real quick too, that's for trust. For a probate estate, for a will, you can file a will contest before the will is admitted to probate or within 6 months. Those are strict statutes, and so it's very important for your viewing audience to know that it's very important to get a lawyer as soon as possible. I know y'all deal with statutes of limitations in your line of work too.
Yeah, there's statute of limitations in almost every area of the law. The law assumes, it has to assume a deadline. You can't bring some dispute years and years and years after. There has to be some finality. And that's the reason for a statute of limitations. If you're going to bring your dispute, you have to bring it within a certain time frame. And that may be what this viewer is facing, is that he may have missed a window to contest a revocable trust. That's what it sounds like. The biggest tip I give people, no matter whether it's family law, wills and estates, personal injury, like what we handle, contact a lawyer within days or weeks, not months and months or years, because there's several statute of limitations in different areas of the law that can apply. And you may have a great case or a great argument that you're entitled to something, but if you wait too long, it doesn't matter. Statute of limitations, they don't care what your reason is for missing the deadline. It doesn't matter. If it's not within that time frame, then your right to contest whatever it is over.
That's right. And also it makes it easier as the lawyer, if we're getting involved earlier, to develop facts, to file motions, to make advances on the case than getting it a couple years later. I'll add too, there's another important statute of limitations in the probate world. That's that a will must be probated within 5 years from the date of death in order to be admitted to probate. So sometimes we'll see where folks, particularly in fast developing North Alabama, they may have inherited land or real property, and then they never got around to probating the estate, and then they want to go back 10 years later and probate grandma or grandpa's will. Under Alabama law, the rule is that you cannot do that. It must be probated within 5 years. A couple exceptions to that, but generally it's 5 years.
Gotcha.
Very good. Thank you both. And when we return, Mark Russell from the Huntsville Sports Commission will join us.
Harrison Brothers brings together the best of North Alabama. Our curated selection of local art, fine crafts, and gourmet food are great gifts for everyone on your shopping list. We carry books by local authors, and our toys pique a child's imagination. At Harrison Brothers, your purchases support artists and artisans right here in the Tennessee Valley. Located on Huntsville's Courthouse Square since 1897, Harrison Brothers is more than a store. It's a tradition.
The Huntsville Sports Commission is a nonprofit that promotes an enhanced quality of life in the Rocket City. Attorney Bart Siniard is with Mark Russell, the executive director of the Huntsville Sports Commission. Bart?
Thanks, Aaron. I'm here this evening with Mark Russell, who's the head of the Huntsville Sports Commission. Thanks so much for being here tonight, Mark.
Yeah, it's a great honor and pleasure to be here, especially with you.
Absolutely. You got an interesting story, and we're going to kind of jump into some of your personal stuff too. But what you do right now and have for the last several years, tell us about the Huntsville Sports Commission, what y'all do and what you've done so far for the city of Huntsville.
Sure. So to sum it up, we're in charge of sports tourism. It's our job to bring in all kinds of sports tournaments to fill up our hotel rooms on the weekends, and also provide citizens and fans to go out to restaurants. And so that's our number one goal. We call it heads in beds. But we also want to increase the quality of life of Huntsville citizens. We want to bring in tournaments that they want to go see. We want to bring in like Alabama basketball. We want to bring in Conference USA basketball. We bring in a big beach volleyball tournament, things that excite them and things that may be of interest to them.
How do you go about trying to attract, sporting industry to Huntsville, Alabama? We've got a good reputation here, but we're not the biggest city. I'm sure we're competing with a lot of bigger cities, more well-known cities for this. How do you do that for Huntsville?
Yeah, sports is extremely competitive, and one thing we play on is the quality of our facilities. We have some excellent city facilities here in Huntsville. They're not the traditional sports. We don't have great football facilities. We may not have great baseball facilities, but we have a great beach volleyball facility. We have a great cross-country facility. We have great facilities for soccer. We have great facilities for curling, other sports like that, and so we play to our strengths.
And the Sports Commission's actually like a nonprofit, is that right?
Correct. We're a 501c3. We get most of our money from tourism taxes, so it's really a business-like concept.
Y'all got a lot of incentive to get these events.
If we don't bring people in, then we don't have any money to pay our employees the next year.
Yeah.
So we're always working, and I like that, the way that is. It's much like private business.
Well, y'all have done a great job getting all these events, Conference USA, you got Alabama, Auburn, some big sports teams coming to town. I want to talk about you personally.
Okay.
Take me from the beginning. How did you get to where you are now?
Well, in sports and
that too,
yeah. So I've always been interested in sports, and I was on the city council in 2002 through 2018, and the Sports Commission had just started around 2000. And I was very interested in, because I was looking for opportunities for my children to. I wanted them to play in certain kind of facilities. I wanted to grow in sports, and so the Sports Commission I thought was a great way to do that. If you could use the facilities during the week for our kids to play in, and then they'd be of such quality that we could host tournaments there on the weekend. I thought that was a win-win for the taxpayers.
Gotcha.
And so I was very interested in that. I really promoted that. I was on the Sports Commission when I became a member of the City Council, and so I've always worked for sports tourism, and we've been able to build a lot of facilities using that model.
That sounds like such a fun job.
It is a good job.
I'm sure you're a huge sports fan.
Yeah.
I know you are, because this isn't your only sports job. You also are a referee
Yes, I referee high school football, have done so for a long, long time.
Tell us what that's like, being a ref.
It's very much like city council. You never know who hates you, who likes you.
Yeah.
It generally flips during the game. The way city council meeting, it flips during the city council meeting. I vote for you, you like me.
Yeah.
I vote against you, you don't like me.
Yeah.
Football officiating is the same way. You walk out on the field and everybody sort of likes you at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then as the game goes, some teams don't like you, some do, vice versa. But you have to make quick decisions. And anytime you're a lawyer, like in the courtroom, you make a quick decision. You have to make that decision. You stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to say you're right most of the time, but there are a couple of times you get it wrong, depending on what you see or how you understand the issue right then and there.
Yeah, you're trying to make a quick judgment.
Yeah.
In a lot of professions.
Yeah.
Is it hard to recruit people to be referees?
Yeah.
I figure, it's not a job where you get a lot of rewarding feedback, I'm sure. Recruiting people to be refs, tell us about that.
So generally it's people that want to stay active in the game. Like I love football and I love kids and love high school football especially, and so I wanted to stay in the game. I like listening to the band. I like being part of everything about it.
Yeah.
I thought refereeing might be better for my skills. I didn't have the time to be a coach.
Yeah.
Everybody coach would be a good thing, but so I thought refereeing, that would be a way I could stay involved in the game. And so I went in it with that attitude. I wanted to be part of the game. I fell in love with it from the get-go, and then when all the problems of time and people yelling at me came up, it really just didn't faze me. I was already in love with the game and wanted to keep on doing it. I've enjoyed every second of it. It's been good for me. I used to have very thin skin. I have very thick skin right now.
You're a city council referee.
But it helped me for city council.
Skin.
Yeah, I was a referee before city council, so it really trained me for city council. It's very similar, like I said.
Let's talk about that. You're city councilman for like 16 years, kind of when Huntsville was taking off. What was that like?
Yeah, so Huntsville's always taken off, I will say that.
Yeah.
It was a great time to be on the city council. I had gone to some meetings and when I was even younger and thought all different type people need to be involved. One of my greatest fears is that only retired people will be on the city council because it's different, like we were talking about before the show. They've already gotten theirs.
Right.
So I like having family, people that have kids in the schools, people of all different ages on the council.
Yeah.
And there's good reasons for that. We just think differently. Like I was looking for, employment. I was looking for parks and rec, things like that.
Yeah.
And so that was real important to me. And what happened is I decided to run because I was talking about all those things, and people said, you're going to be retired before you have time to run.
Yeah, you went ahead and did it.
And so I went ahead and did it. I was 38, when I started thinking about it, and I had two school-age children. They were 10 and 8, and it really was good for me. So we did a lot of things. I had a good personality for the city council because of my refereeing background. I was able to let a lot of things go that people said to me, and was able to work together with the other council people in the city and work with the mayors, and a lot of good things have happened since 2002.
Well,
great city we live in.
I appreciate everything you've done for our city.
Thank you.
Been a big part of, a lot of things that Huntsville's doing right. And I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Aaron, back to you.
Thank you, Bart. When the Siniard Law Show returns, we'll get to more of your legal questions, and we'll tell you how you can sign up for the Siniard Law Firm's free monthly newsletter.
I got sandwiched between an 18-wheeler and a truck. During the accident, I lost my left leg. I chose Siniard Law because my granddad knew they had a great reputation. They were very knowledgeable. They were very sweet. We had a connection. They pretty much treated us like family. I would definitely recommend Siniard Law because they are caring and they will help you get what you deserve. If you've been injured, call Siniard Law.
Welcome back to the Siniard Law Show. If you would like to sign up for Siniard Law's newsletter, which provides free monthly legal tips, scan the QR code or be sure to sign up at siniardlaw.com. Now let's get back to you, our viewers, and your questions. Thomas left us a voicemail.
Yes, my name is Thomas. I have a question about a will versus a deed, versus a trust. I wanted to know if I have a will that's valid and well constructed, is there an advantage of getting a trust as well in the event of my death, and leaving the estate to my children.
And so this is a common question, the basics of wills versus trusts. What are some benefits of getting a trust, for the family farm or even, your primary home? Mm-hmm. What are some benefits to doing that?
It's a good question, Bart, and it primarily deals with probate avoidance. And so if your estate is passing through probate, that's at least a 6-month process. Yeah. It can be much longer if there's disputes or if there's extra affairs to wrap up. And so when property is transferred properly to a revocable living trust, then there's no assets, there shouldn't be any assets anyway, to transfer through the probate court. And so you get the privacy of your will and your estate does not pass through probate, so no one doesn't become a part of the public record, and then you get rid of the 6-month time period. Mm-hmm. If you passed away living in Alabama but had let's say a cabin in Tennessee and a condo in Florida, mm-hmm. Through probate you'd have to have both a domiciliary estate in Alabama and then an ancillary in Tennessee and an ancillary in Florida. Now you're paying 3 different lawyers, and so by doing a trust, you can avoid all 3 of those probate situations. So there's some other, there's some more complex types of trusts as well. But generally, the revocable living trust is the one that we find is most useful for most people.
Talk a little bit also. We do a lot of nursing home negligence type cases and trying to walk people through this. But Medicaid is really the primary payer of nursing homes in the state of Alabama. And I've sent people to you, having problem getting qualified for Medicaid. Mm-hmm. Walk people through that who've maybe got an elderly parent who, still owns their home or has some mm-hmm. savings. What is it like trying to be able to get them eligible for Medicaid to cover a nursing home?
It's a great question. And Bart, I would say the way to answer that question is to first calculate the shortfall. And so look at what the income you have coming in. So for mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, look at what the income coming in is, and then measure that against the average cost for a nursing home stay is about $7,000 a month in Alabama. Mm-hmm. The average stay in a nursing home is about 24 months or about 2 years. And then when you subtract out the monthly income coming in, and you can figure out the shortfall that you may have to measure and make up. Yeah. You're right. Medicaid pays for most nursing home care in Alabama. Medicare, which is for older people, Medicare does not pay for long-term stay in a nursing home. It's right. Medicaid. Medicaid is a needs-based program, and so you have to be under $2,000 in assets or resources and under $2,200 a month in income. And so there's also, importantly, there's a 5-year look-back period. Mm. So in order to qualify that for Medicaid, which would pay for a nursing home, you cannot just deed your house to your daughter the day before.
I gotcha.
Any type of planning like that, whether it's through gifting or transfers to a trust, has to occur at least 5 years before you need it. So there's a 5-year look-back period.
Interesting.
Well, here's an email question from Deborah. She says, I received about $80,000 when my mother passed away in inheritance. Me and my 2 brothers inherited some of her farmland that was recently sold. Will I have to pay taxes on the $80,000?
So, kind of a tax question, but hopefully in your lane. What about taxes on inheritance?
Sure, harping back to your tax days in law school, right?
I don't remember the answer to this. This is all you, man.
So it's a kind of classic capital gains question. Okay. So I'll kind of answer it like this with an illustration. Let's say that you buy a farm or a piece of property in 1970 for $100,000 and you sell it in 2025 for $1 million. Okay. $1 million minus $100,000, that's a $900,000 capital gain that you've just realized, and you pay capital gains tax on that, 15 or 20% capital gains tax. If instead you buy a piece of property in 1970 for $100,000 and you pass away in 2025 and leave the property to your children, they get what's called a stepped up tax basis, which means that their basis in the property steps up or jumps up from the $100,000 up to that $1 million to your date of death value.
Oh.
So the children can sell it after your passing and usually pay no capital gains tax.
Yeah.
So $1 million in sale price minus $1 million in basis. That's $0 in tax. They can end up paying if they hold on to it for another 5 years, and then it goes to 1.5 million. And so they'd pay on that 1.5 minus money. They would pay capital gains on that. But the stepped up tax basis is a great feature. Bart, I'll say too, it's probably a good time to pause and say, take your legal advice from lawyers, take your tax advice from your accountants.
Yeah, it's a good disclaimer. We can put that at the bottom. But yeah, that's interesting to know. So like, if the person who originally bought it had sold the land prior to their passing, they would have owed 25% on the gain.
A lot of money.
But if that person passes away and it's left to their children, then the gain really goes away, is what you're saying?
That's right. Their basis steps up.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, Bart, grandma's basis was $100,000, but her children, their basis becomes that $1 million, that date of death value.
Yeah, interesting. Well, is there any benefit? I think you've talked about saving time, maybe saving money too, to instead of just having your land in your name, you're getting older. Do you recommend people putting, the land in a trust as they age?
I think a revocable trust can be a great way for families to manage affairs after you pass away. So a revocable trust is really good. You do need to make sure that you're talking with an experienced estate planning attorney and setting up your estate plan. There are some minefields with trusts. If you transfer a property to an irrevocable trust, there can be some uses for that, but it can also cost you your homestead exemption with your property. It can eat away or can cause you to lose stepped up basis. And so always be very careful before transferring property to a irrevocable trust.
Yeah, we're about to wrap up, but I think one of the things people are concerned about is calling a lawyer, having to pay for a lawyer. What does that look like? And I'm not asking you to disclose your typical stuff, but how do people pay an estate planning lawyer like you?
Good question. The first step is just to call and schedule an appointment. Most estate planning attorneys, I would think, we certainly do, I think most of them would give you a free consultation and do a little education and help you see what you may need for your particular situation. And then for us, we just charge when folks come back in to sign their estate planning documents.
I got you.
So if you do, with the revocable trust, if you do that, there's deed tax incurred in that. So you have to pay a little bit of tax to the probate court, and that's $1 per thousand. So if you transferred, or let's say a $300,000 house, it'd be $300 in deed tax. So a little bit of extra friction there with the trust as well. I would say well worth it.
Gotcha.
Definitely. And the medical, we didn't even scratch the surface on that one. That's really important too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Setting up what you would like to see happen, if you're unable to do so, around life support or artificial food and hydration is very meaningful, I think, for a lot of people, and gives them peace.
Yeah. So it could be really tragic if you don't. So good. Save us some heartache. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bart Siniard and Will Pylant, for all this information on wills and trusts. And we do look forward to hearing from you, our viewers, with your questions about any legal topic you'd like the attorneys to tackle. You can email us at questions@SiniardLaw.com or call our voicemail line at 844-7000-LAW. Join us next Sunday night after the late news. Good night.
The preceding was a paid presentation by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys, paid for by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys.